Back to school with picture books. I am Renita P. of Teachable Resourceful Learners. I am an educator. I am an author. I am a lover of pink. I am a Christian. I am a sorority girl. I am a presenter. And I am the owner of the YouTube channel, Teachable Resourceful Learners. If you have not subscribed yet, please hit the subscription button. The focus, the outcomes, and why you should use back to school picture books at the beginning of the year. Picture books will prepare your classroom for the first days of school. The books today represent a variety of people, cultures, and backgrounds, which will help create a supportive and inclusive learning environment starting on the first day of school till the last day of school. The books will also reassure your students about what to expect in new situations. The books will review and practice previously learned skills, and they also can be used to introduce new skills. The activities will build relationships with peers, use critical thinking and problem solving skills. It will work with cooperation and academic skills in a fun and engaging way. Why are we going to use picture books at the beginning of the year? Because the first few days and weeks of the school year set the classroom tone for the entire school year. And when I say the first few weeks, I am talking about weeks 1 up until about week 2. Picture books are a powerful tool for establishing a thriving classroom culture on the first days of school. They inspire creativity, they teach empathy and encourage collaborations. They offer a unique and meaningful way to welcome students to their new learning environments. Book discussions could include school rules and routines and procedures, how to make new friends, PBIS traits. If your school is a PBIS school, it can introduce traits like cooperation, being safe, perseverance, respect, responsible. It can also help talk about anxiety and fears that students might have at the beginning of the year. It will also help you work towards a cohesive class community and help everyone get to know each other. Where can you find these books? Again, I am Renita of Teachable Resourceful Learners, and I believe in being resourceful. You can find the books at Epic, which is an online reading website of different books. They have books that you can read them aloud. They have books that will read to you, and they also have books that students can follow along. And again, it is free. The best resource we have are our public libraries because they are free for everyone. YouTube, and if you must purchase the books, you can find them at Amazon, Scholastic, and if you have a half-price bookstore in your area, they are available there. The picture books. The books that I chose to highlight are Chrysanthemum, Your Name is a Song, I've Got the School Spirit, The Pigeon Has to Go to School, First Day Jitters, The Name Jar, The Kissing Hand, Miss Mingo and the First Day of School, Miss Nelson is Missing, A Letter from Your Teacher, I Am Ruby Bridges, Ruby Bridges Goes to School, My True Story, The Day the Crayons Quit, School Then and Now, Enemy Pie, The Word Collector, School is Cool, We Will Rock Our Classmates, School's First Day of School, Stick and Stone, Lola Goes to School, We Don't Eat Our Classmates. Now we're going to talk about making it work during the first days of school. If you look here, you see Lola Goes to School is in blue. We Don't Eat Our Classmates is in black. If the book title is in blue, that means that book can be found on Epic. And if we go back to this slide, we see school's first day of school is in blue, and we see an A followed by that. That means that that is an audio book on Epic. You can see there are different types of picture books through here. Some are fiction, like The Day the Crayons Quit. Some are nonfiction, like School Then and Now. Let's look at the book School Then and Now. School Then and Now describes how school has changed through the years and includes such topics as transportation, supplies, and subject taught. This book can be used during the first days of school to introduce the skill, comparing, and contrasting. And it can also introduce nonfiction. So those are just a couple of ways that you can use the books during the first days of school. Now, let's talk about making it work during the first weeks. The procedures and routines. Even though we are reading a fiction or nonfiction book, we can use the story to introduce procedures and routines, such as arrival, dismissal, class expectation, desk organization, lining up, work expectations, how do we turn in our work, lunch, recess, restroom, computer usage, computer storage, carpet time, and any other procedures and routines that you might have. So let me show you how this works. The activities. We're going to use one book to introduce, review, or teach skills the first week. Again, you have nonfiction skills that you can go over and teach in these books. I'm just going to read a few of them. You can ask comprehension questions. You can introduce vocabulary, text features, author's purpose. They can do research. They can define unfamiliar words. And you can find different words in the books that have prefixes, suffixes, homographs, homophones, antonyms, synonyms. You can introduce analogies. You can summarize text. And you should always identify the author and the illustrator. Fiction. Again, you can find words that have prefixes, suffixes, root words, homographs, homophones, antonyms, synonyms. You can draw conclusions. You can do inferences. You can do point of view. You can do main ideas. You can sequence. You can tell what is happening in the beginning, the middle, or the end of a story. Again, this is using one book to introduce or teach or review many skills at one time at the beginning of the year. Now, how can you do these assignments? Again, we want our students to be diverse learners. We want them to be able to use technology as a tool, and we also still want them to be able to write neat and legible on paper. But these activities today are mostly technology, but one is where they will have to write something out on an anchor chart. They can use a Jamboard, which is part of the Google Suite. You have Google Docs, you have Sheets, you have slides, and you have a form. As a teacher, you can use the form as a quiz. Depending on what your learning management system is, in Canvas, they have a studio where you can record their answers. But if your learning management system does not have a place to record, there is Flip, which used to be known as Flipgrid. Flipgrid allows you to record videos. The videos can be anywhere from 30 seconds to 10 minutes. It is a free resource. Here is a sticky note. A sticky note can be used on an anchor chart. Like on the first day of school, you could ask the question, how did you come to school today? They can write their answers on the sticky note and you can put it on a chart paper in your room, or you might just write it on your chalkboard or your whiteboard. Also, you can do a Padlet where you type out a question and answer it. Padlet is also available on the web and it is free. You can also do a Kahoot, and there's also Bookit. So now let's look at these back to school books. Some of these we talked about, some of them we didn't, but again, these are books that you can use during the first days of school. So these are just some of the activities that you can do with a lot of back to school books, because these are things that we need to know about our students at the beginning of the year. And again, it's going to help build community, and it's also going to help you work with your routines and procedures that you need in your classroom. So, of course, we're going to read the book. How many letters are in my name graph? That's a good way to introduce graphing and teaching them how to do a bar graph. This is also a good activity to teach them how do you answer on a sticky note, or you might use the dot stickers that they have to leave their seat, walk to wherever is posted in the room, then come back and sit down. Another graph activity is how I get home graph, because we need to know on the first day, how do our students get home? Are they a walker? Are they a bus rider? Are they daycare? How do they get home? How I feel about the first day and why. You might have up a chart with different feelings and emotions on it, and they have to put a sticker up under there. Or they might write on a sticky note and put their name up under there. Compare your first day to first day jitters. Write a letter or email to your teacher. What's your favorite animal anchor chart? That will go with, if you read the book, Miss Mingo and the First Day of Schools. You might do that with the kissing hand or Pete the cat. You can have a happy first day coloring sheet. That's a non-threatening, easy way to have their first assignment on the first day of school on their desk waiting for them. If you do morning work or if you do a do now. Research the meaning of their name, because our name is our identity. Sort names by syllabus. If you do something like that as the teacher or the facilitator, you will write your students' names down on a piece of paper, and then the students can sort them by syllables in a center. Sort names by beginning letters. Create comprehension questions. Introduce making connections and narrative elements. Compare and contrast to back to school books. Write opinions about the first day. Record what you had jitters about on the first day. Draw your favorite part of the story in sequence. And you can create a story map whole group. I say story map whole group because of the fact that some students might not have experienced a story map before, and that will be a one way to introduce story map. Now we're looking at Miss Mingo and the first day of school. Miss Mingo is the teacher. She is a flamingo, and her students are different types of animals. This book tells the story of students who come to school on the first day, and they have to do a show and tell. Their show and tell is on what makes them special. So the book is a fiction book. However, in the left-hand corner, there is a sentence or two that gives a fact about each animal and what makes it special. And these are just some of the activities that you can do. All of these activities come from the book. Once you read the book, the activities will make a little bit more sense. Hippos are one of the animals in the book. They tell you that the hippo lips are 2 feet wide. How much is that in inches? That's a way to introduce measurements. Hippos eat 100 pounds a day of food. How much is that in ounces? So again, you're getting some measurement in. You can also research the weight, height of each animal and create a chart showing the weight and height from least to greatest or greatest to least. Using the provided materials, construct a shelter for one of the animals after researching. When I use provided materials, I mean whatever materials you might have in your area or classroom. You need to get some science in. Design a life cycle poster of a frog or a plant. You could read the book and discuss the uniqueness of each animal. You could also introduce researching by have the children research the different animals in the book and write a fact about each animal. Another way, because a lot of grade levels in K through 5 kind of start off with place value. So right here, the alligator can lose 3,000 teeth in its lifetime. Write 3,000 in standard form, word form, and expanded form. You also can tell if there are numbers in the book. You can also tell is the number odd, even, prime, or composite. So those are just some ways that you can use this one book to get a lot of skills in the first day of school. Well, let's go back to classroom procedures and routine. The book talks about the first day of school. So that's a springboard right there to talk about the classroom environment. You can talk about arrival routines, dismissal routine, lunch, recess, going to the restroom, how to act when somebody is speaking, how do you listen effectively. So those are just some routines and procedures you can use with this book. Next, we have Miss Nelson is missing. Miss Nelson is the teacher, but the students have not learned the routines, procedures, and behavior expectations of the classroom yet. So Miss Nelson leaves and in comes Viola Swamp, who is the exact opposite of Miss Nelson. This book right here will be good to introduce classroom expectations and guest teacher expectations. The students are in room 207, so you can show ways to get 207 using all or some of the operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Can you make a pattern starting with the number 207? If you are teaching younger grades, you can make 207 turn into 20. It could be 2, it could be 7. Is the number odd or even? You can also have a paper airplane flying contest and measure the distance traveled. If your students are not ready for inches and feet yet, you can always use non-standard measurements like Unifix cubes. Or you can go outside and have a paper airplane flying contest and use sidewalk chalk and measure where the different airplanes stopped at and go back to where you started from with another line to see which airplane went the longest, which one went the shorter, which one was in the middle. So those are just some simple, fun activities you can do with Miss Nelson is missing. You can also introduce symmetry in that, because in there they talk about a butterfly, and a butterfly is symmetrical. So they can make a simple symmetrical design. Again, we're talking about using back to school books during the first week of school and using one book to introduce academic skills that you need to review or you want to do informal assessments, and to introduce your procedures and routine. Ruby Bridges Goes to School, My True Story, is a nonfiction book that Ruby Bridges writes about her experiences in 1961 when she integrated the elementary school in New Orleans, Louisiana. There are numbers that are important to Ruby's life in the book. You can write these numbers in standard, word, and expanded form. You can tell if the numbers are odd or even, prime or composite. Ruby was born in 1954. How many years ago was that? So then we can find out how old Ruby is to now. STEM challenges. Can you design a playground with cardstock, clear tape, and craft stick? Ruby could have played on as a 6-year-old. The materials can be changed to fit your particular area, and you could change it to provided materials. Like the next challenge. Can you design a lunchbox with the provided materials to hold an apple and beverage pouch? Scientists, who do you see? This book could be used the first time you want to introduce scientists, because again, we want our students to be able to write like a scientist, think like a scientist, draw like a scientist. But sometimes that's very hard when students do not even know what a scientist is. So this book right here will explain to you different scientists. After you read the book, You could work on those computer skills. You could work on research skills. You could also work on summarizing and retelling by having them watch a video on a scientist from the book and write facts you want to remember. Well, how many facts should I have them to write about? That's up to you. If you do this in like the lower grades and they're not really able to express themselves yet well in writing, you could always have them do a flip or a video. You could create a display of tools scientists use so they can see the tools that scientists use. Your display could also come from the internet. You could copy pictures and make a slide presentation of the different tools that scientists use. Teach the scientific method steps. You could compare and contrast the scientists to each other. Like on the front, you could compare Einstein to Catherine Williams. So it's just a whole lot of things you can do. You can also create a pumpkin scientist project. This is a project where you use a real or a artificial pumpkin and you decorate the pumpkin to look like a scientist and you create and you attach a biography to it. What is science? What is science is a simple little book that you can use to introduce science again. There are words from what is in science. You can sort those words into living and non-living. You could sort those words by syllables. You can sort them by beginning sounds. You can also do experiments in class using the 5 senses because a scientist uses all of their senses to explain things and to solve problems. You can teach a lesson and hold a discussion on science tools and how they help in understanding science. Different tools you might have on display might be a hand lens, a ruler, a beaker, a goggles, scale, glove, test tube, petri dish, measuring cup. And in this day and age, you might have a computer, paper, and pencil, and something that you might need to use to show color. Have a discussion on the 5 senses and how they help us with hearing about science. So these are just some activities that you can use when you have to introduce science. Charlotte the Scientist is Squished is about a rabbit who has a problem. So she goes into her laboratory to solve her problem. And her problem is she feels too crowded because there are too many people living in her house. You can create a simple project to show how you go through the scientific method. You can visit a science lab virtually, and then you could talk about field trip expectations if you were to go visit a science lab in person, or you might visit a farm where there are rabbits. You can create anchor charts again, because you're going to use this book to introduce science. You might have an anchor chart that says, what is a scientist? Scientists can, scientists use, scientists are, and you might have an anchor chart on how to write like a scientist. Again, you are setting your procedures and routine for science. Reading the book, Charlotte the Scientist is Squished. Here are more picture books that you can use during the first week of school that you can read, and you can get any academic skill, social emotional learning skill, teaching your routines and procedures out of. We have David Goes to School, Pete the Cat, Thank You, Mr. Faulkner, Wimberly Worried, The Recess Queen, Click Clack Quack to School, We Don't Eat Our Classmates, If You Take a Mouse to School, How to Get Your Teacher Ready. All are welcome. Our class is a family. How I Spent My Summer Vacation. This is the Way We Go to School. That is a good book to introduce social studies because it talks about how children throughout the world use different modes of transportation to go to school. I also like using the book I Promise by LeBron James. Why? Because not only is he a star athlete, he is also an author, and he is also the founder of a school. So this lets children see the different perspectives of a person and also let them know that yes, you can be an athlete, but you also can be an author. The last one is the day you began. How I spent my summer vacation is usually a question we ask students at the beginning of the year. How I spent my summer vacation. But sometimes students do not go on a vacation, so you can switch the question and ask, what is something you wanted to do this summer, but you did not get to do? So again, these are other books you can use during the first weeks of school. If you like these books that were presented here, you might enjoy going to my Teachers Pay Teachers store and find more activities for these books. There is a Me in the Bag activity, Miss Mingo and the First Day of School book activities, Charlotte the Scientist is Squished, I Am Ruby Bridges, Chrysanthemums, The Ruby Bridges Goes to School, My True Story, What is Science, based on the book, and I've Got the School Spirit. I am also the author of the School Year Self-Care Challenge book and Are You Engaged? Fun and Engaging Activities to Boost Student Achievement. Those books can be found on our website, teachableresourcefullearners.com, on the contact page to order, or you can use the link below to order. All of the books will be shipped to you within 3 days, and they will be autographed. The Are You Engaged? Fun and Engaging Activities to Boost Student Achievement is a great book if you are a beginning teacher or you've been teaching from, say, 2 to 5 years. The book explains to you how do you set your classroom up to be fun and engaging with activities from the first day to the last day. Coming soon, Back to School with Routines and Procedures, Back to School with Planning a Successful First Week will be on my YouTube channel within a week. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and like my Facebook page, Teachable Resourceful Learners. In any language, no matter how you say it, thank you. Don't forget to like my YouTube channel. This is Renita of Teachable Resourceful Learners. Have a great day.